Good evening and a very, very warm welcome to you wherever you may be. You're tuning into the Football Out West show's Extra Time, and it is certainly a new look Extra Time this week. My name is Tonci Puscasu, and joining me as they do each week, firstly, Craig Filer. Good evening, Craig. How are you?
Good evening, Tonci. Good evening, Steve. Good evening, listeners. Hope everybody's well. Fantastic weekend again. Weather superb. Some great football being played, and we've just finished watching the final game of the NPL Victoria round 4 clash. So
we'll go through that a little later on. But before we do that, last but not least, Steve Curtin, the third member of our illustrious trio. Steve, how are you? How have you been enjoying the beautiful sunshine?
Yeah, it looks like I'm a little bit pink almost. Maybe I've been enjoying it too much, perhaps. But good timing, finishing that match at Churchill Reserve. Only moments ago, the final whistle went, and then you can go straight from watching that and then into watching Extra Time with us on the Football Out West show. So that couldn't have been timed more perfectly. And myself, I've actually just got home from that match last night at George Andrews Reserve just a moment ago. So,
which we'll be speaking about. Which there's a funny story to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, before we do go on with the show, you're watching the Extra Time powered by Football Out West. And before we go further, a word from our major sponsor, George Cross. Don't go away.
And authentic Maltese cuisine at George's on Vista in the heart of Fraser Rise. We have a menu to suit everyone, which includes kids and seniors meals and a cocktail list that will need you to come back several times to get through. Our specialty nights are a big hit. Tuesday is $20 Palmer night with a selection of Palmers to choose from. Kids eat free Wednesday night. With every paid adult meal, you get one free kids meal. Thursday is Maltese night. Check out the Maltese specials on our specials board. And Friday night, we have happy hour between 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Be sure to book your table to avoid disappointment. Bookings can be made via our website, georgesonvista.com.au. See you at George's on Vista. You'll find us at Caroline Springs, George Cross.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It's the Extra Time, and folks, we are going back to it, our standard ways. We tried it last week. Just didn't work, unfortunately, the studio setup. So hopefully this is going to be a lot better, certainly for us going forward. Just wasn't meant to be, Craig, was it?
No, it wasn't. We tried it. And it just wasn't right. The setup was good, but we had some few technical issues, and unfortunately, we've had to rely on that one for the moment. But we'll sure as we do, as we've said, we'll look to come back at some point with a studio setup, but just not for the moment.
That's right. So our major sponsor this year for both the Extra Time and the press box, which will follow, is George Cross Football Club, home of George's on Vista. Now, gents, let's talk about tonight's show. First of all, Steve, what's on the cards for tonight's show?
Yeah, so first of all, we've got a couple of coaches coming on to chat to us tonight. The successful Savvas Pattikis from Altona Magic, who got his side, helped them to their first win last night down at Dandenong Thunder. And we've also got Costi Puscasu from the Eastern Lions, and looking forward to chatting with him because he's also always very good value as well. And actually, we had a little chat with him last night, didn't we, Craig?
We certainly did. Yeah, he was very buoyant considering his side got thumped 3-0. But we'll have a talk to Costi later on. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say.
Now, gents, you guys were both commentating that game down at George Andrews Reserve in Dandenong. Now, Steve, apparently there's a very funny story. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but do tell us about some of the trials and tribulations behind the scenes of being a commentator at an NPL game.
Yeah, this is all part of the action, and we had young Bill Bennett there last night as part of the NPL commentary. What was it? The education process. We were teaching him, showing him the ropes a little bit, and of course, he should have hung around a little bit later to the point in time in which my car was unable to be reopened, unlocked, and I actually had to call the RACV roadside assist to help me in. Which was quite helpful. The lady from RACV managed to get my car open, and then the alarm proceeded to go off for the next 30 minutes. So eventually we stopped that, and then I got out of there and just made it back home in time for the show.
Never a dull moment. And speaking of never a dull moment, there's never a dull moment in the NPL. So we're going to have a look at the NPL round of results there. Steve, do you want to take us through some of those scores of games played on Friday night and yesterday? And then, Craig, I'll get you to take us up with the latest of what has just happened this Sunday afternoon.
Sure thing, Tonci. So Friday night was a good night for the home teams. Eventually, with Melbourne Knights having to come from behind and get a good 3-2 win there at Knight Stadium, and Green Gully, a 1-0 win over, well, it is a lowly Dandenong City, I suppose. 1-0 there, courtesy of a Noel Bernarda penalty. Moving on to Saturday and out to the eastern suburbs, where Eastern Lions were unsuccessful against the visiting Port Melbourne Sharks, who are looking pretty good this season. Port Melbourne Sharks, Adam Pattikis side, they're looking pretty good. Saturday night, good results for the away sides in contrast to the previous night. Avondale 3-0 over Hume at ABD Stadium. So they bounced back to form, and a couple of bad weeks on the bounce there for Hume. And upset of the round, maybe, perhaps. Not many people tipping the Magic to go and get a win at Dandenong Thunder, and they did that with 2 second-half goals, and it was a really good night for the Magic with, a couple of good goals and in the second half, and a good win for them, and they celebrated in style after that one, didn't they, Craig?
Yeah, they certainly did. It's been a long time coming, and they've played some fantastic football over the last few weeks, and we'll touch on that with their head coach shortly. But thoroughly deserved the win last night. Probably certainly first half they were the better side. It was a very open game, Steve, wasn't it? It was more akin to a cup tie than it was an NPL game. It was so open and fast and fluid, and it was a fantastic game to commentate on.
I think that's why we enjoyed it so much. And eventually Robert Harding getting let in there for the goal, just with a bit of an error from Dandenong Thunder, and that opened the floodgates a little bit more at the back as the Thunder were forced to attack. And Tommy Semi, the PNG international, getting his first goal in NPL Victoria, and didn't he enjoy that? And so did the Altona Magic fans.
Absolutely.
Now, Craig, we had 2 games played this evening. Tell us the scores of those games.
Yeah, we did, Steve. Just just finished. I've got that one up and ready to talk about. Was the St Albans? It was a top of the table clash, wasn't it? St Albans in second, South Melbourne in first place, and it's South Melbourne that come away with a 4-1 win from Churchill Reserve. Langlois scoring 2, one in the 25th, one in the 86th, and Harrison Sawyer scoring 2, one in 26th and one in the 5th minute of extra time, giving South Melbourne a 4-1 lead and clear at the top of the ladder as we speak. So going very strong are the boys from South. But the other game this afternoon was Heidelberg United 2, Oakley Cannons 0. And that's another good result, with Heidelberg sitting at the bottom of the ladder after 3 rounds, but desperately needing a win at home. And they got that win 2-0 with Kane Shepherd and Thashaj getting the second goal, and again third minute of extra time, giving the Burgers a 2-0 win.
And
good win there. It's a bit of a surprise that Oakley looked pretty good in the last couple of weeks, and Heidelberg bouncing back there with their first win of the season, so they're off the mark, and good luck to them this year.
We've got some gremlins once again getting their ugly feet into it, whatever. We did see some footage there of the St. Albans goal. That was in the 48th minute of the first half. Al Urabi getting St. Albans' only goal. And then, 2 late goals there by South Melbourne. So, look, that was the ladder prior to this afternoon. So, South Melbourne maintained their 100% record at the very top of the competition standing. So, they're on 12 points. St. Albans dropped down to 5th from second spot. But at the other end of the table, I guess the news there is that Heidelberg are off the ladder as well. So off the bottom of the ladder. So they're on 3 points now, and they basically overtake Hume City and Dandenong City. So they're now in third last position there. Now, we will bring out the first guest onto the show. He's itching to get on and talk about last night's result, Savvas Pattikis, and he joins us. And
I don't think he's got home since last night. I think he's still out.
Oh well, let's see if he's still around. if he's still around, have we got Savvas there on the line?
Yeah. Good evening, lads. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, loud and clear.
Now, if we'd known we were all have to get dressed up, mate, I'd make the effort.
Yeah. Well,
you
mate,
could wear that sort of get up in the technical area service and look the part next weekend, perhaps.
I might have to give that a go. Yeah, I'm currently at a christening, so.
Oh, that's what it is. We were wondering why you're so dressed up. Like, would you normally dress up when the team wins like that? As a sign of celebration.
Yeah, these wild christenings, they're not normal ones, that's for sure. There's about 400 or 500 people inside the reception, so you've got to look the part.
Who's going to go first, gents?
Go on, Steve, you crack on.
All right, so let's go with this narrative of the season so far. Sav, you've played some really good high possession football and haven't been rewarded for it as yet. How much of a relief was it last night when that first goal went in from Robert Harding just after half time?
To be honest, it was an incredible feeling. I mean, it was always one of those things where the goal would come eventually, and the fact that it came in such a game like last night was quite a big relief. And to be honest, I'm even more happy that someone like Robert Harding was the first to get on the score sheet for the club. I brought Robert over from WA. He's been working really hard to get himself into the first 11 each week. And he started last night, worked really hard, and we basically spoke before the game about, hard work meets luck. So don't expect luck if you're not working hard for it. And lucky enough, we pressed. The boys worked really hard, and lucky enough, the defender slipped up and he took the chance. So I was very, very relieved, and it was very good to see the boys celebrate off the bench for that goal as well. It really showed how much it meant not only to themselves but for the whole club. So it was good.
Now, you just mentioned there that Robert Harding played last night and he's been working really hard to get into the team. One thing I noticed last night was you had a very attacking lineup with obviously Tommy Seri, Peter Kaspidis, yep, and Robert Harding. Was that off the back of what's happened over the last couple of weeks and thought, right, well, we're just going to get at the teams a little bit more, or because you change of shape as well? Tommy Semi started centrally, and Robert Harding on the one side and Peter Kaspidis on the other side. What was the thought process around that?
Yeah, I think looking back over the last few games, I think one of our strengths as a team is creating chances, and I think the more and more we go on, if we don't start to change our attack a little bit and be a little bit more dynamic in terms of how we move forward and get in behind defences, I think we'll struggle more and more as times go on, because I think teams are just going to come out, be prepared for it, and sit deep like they have, and set up with 2 banks of 4 and make it really hard for us to penetrate in behind. So we did change it up a little bit. We worked on it during the week. I brought Tommy in as a bit of a 9 or a false 9, if you like, and wanted to use his strength in behind, and it worked. So credit to the lads.
Now, Savvas, I guess next week, if we already turn our attention to next week, it's a big game, home game against Oakley. We've just found out they've lost their game earlier today against Heidelberg 2-0. So it's the wounded cannons, I guess. In this particular case, they'll be a dangerous side, obviously coming off the back of a loss there. How will you prepare going forward now? The win. We saw some photos there of the boys just really, in a very kind of euphoric mood last night. So that was great to see. Are you going to approach this particular week any way, any special way, I guess?
No, I'm not, to be honest. I mean, the message I'm trying to give the boys and the club is consistency. So it doesn't matter who we're playing. We could play Melbourne Victory next week. For us, it doesn't matter. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing, stick to what we believe in, and have a bit of faith in the style that we're trying to play, and just try to be as consistent as possible. Because for me, that's what a good team is. It's consistent, and even when the chips are down, good teams will still get results. And I think our team has been very unfortunate the first 3 opening games, where I think we've played some very good football. It have been some open games, especially against Gully. Even last night was a very open game, but they're entertaining games. And I think our lads, the message will still be consistent. It'll still be to play our football, regardless of who we're playing, how the other team sets up. We try not to focus too much on who we're playing against. It's more about what are we going to do and how do we keep improving on what we need to improve on. Because if I'm honest, I think our boys are, from what I've been seeing in the league, I think that they deserve to be up there and pushing for finals at the end of the year if we can keep doing what we're doing.
Sav, your other goal scorer last night, Tommy Semi, he seems to have a unique set of attributes that we don't see or haven't really seen from other players in NPL Victoria, at least at the moment. He looks like he could take the league by the scruff of the neck if he gets his confidence up. Do you think that might happen after he found the back of the net last night for the first time in the competition?
Well, I hope for his sake that he does, because he's got high ambitions. He wants to play A-League or even higher. Tommy actually is leaving tomorrow to go play for his country, so the World Cup qualifiers. So I said to the players before the game, we've got to play for Tommy today. Tommy's leaving us tomorrow to go play his World Cup qualifiers. It's on us to help him get to that next level for his country with as high confidence as possible. So a win for Tommy is going to help him. And I spoke to Tommy on the side and said, Tommy, just go out there and enjoy yourself, mate. Don't change anything about who you are or what you do on the park. You're already a player that's been feared. Don't let that creep up on your shoulders in terms of adding more pressure. Just go out there and play your game. And he's probably one of the attackers I haven't seen around in the leagues for a very long time. He's
unique, isn't he?
He's a beast. You just look at the size of him. He's so strong. He's got a top speed it's just under 36 k's an hour. So it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even. He's borderline, school zone speed limits.
Yeah. So he'll be playing against the New Zealand national team next weekend. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we wish him all the best.
Now, big thing for me in football clubs, and it's a big one for, as I said, for me when I'm coaching, is your culture. Okay, there's probably been things said over the past few years at Magic where there's been a lot of players coming and going. The culture probably hasn't been correct, or certain individuals have not caused problems, but that breeds a poor culture. From what I've seen, and I've been lucky enough to do, I think, 3 of your games so far this season, the culture seems to have changed at the football club. It looks like everybody's bought into what you and Craig are doing. I was quickly talking to your keeper last night before the game, and he said that the change rooms are fantastic at the moment. What have you done to change that? Obviously, bringing in players but what have you done to change that, Sav? Because it's really evident when your boys are playing as well.
Firstly, thanks for recognising that, Craig. Because I'll be honest, from the moment I got there, for me, culture is the biggest thing. If your players, as a coach, if you don't have the change rooms, you're fighting a losing battle. And I've worked really hard to bring in, first, to release the players that They weren't going to fit in my plans, and I've managed to bring in a lot of players, both mixture of young and old, who are going to fit the mould. But for me, I'm a big believer that I'll give you an example. I use Jurgen Klopp's analogy, where it's 80% of the person, 20% of the tactic. So 80% of your group has to be about the person. They've got to have the right mentality, the right attitude. The tactic side of things will always come. And I'm very fortunate enough that the players that I've brought in are incredible players, and I've shown them since the day they've arrived that we're a family club, and as long as I'm around, they'll have all the support they need on and off the park. And all I ask for is that when they come to the ground, that they work hard for the jersey that they're wearing and for the people around them, and especially myself. I've made a lot of changes behind the scenes. I've made a lot of changes at the club. I've introduced a lot of new processes that help improve the club. Another big step that I made was my coaching staff. So I brought in guys like John Cobiella, who's, for me, probably one of the best sports conditioning and performance coaches in the country. And he's got the boys to a fitness level that's never seen before. And to complement all this is obviously the brand of football that we're playing. That's the other important factor, because you can have all the right players with the right attitudes, but if you're not playing attractive football, eventually your luck's going to run out, and players are going to stop believing in what you want to do. So I think it's a mixture of all those things. I think the ingredients have all come together, and now it's more about staying true to who we are and what we're trying to do, and keep pushing forward. I mean, in terms of the culture with the fans, I'm not sure if you know, even last week against Eastern Lions, there were a few unhappy fans with myself. But that's how it is. I think those guys are always going to be there. So there's not much more that I could be doing at the moment for the boys, and they know that. And I'll make sure that every week that the boys know that we're in this together. So we win, lose, draw, I'll always back them, and yeah, we just move forward.
Talking about Savvas, talking about inspirational characters at the club and people with the right culture. Just recently, I think it was last week, there we have on the screen Johnny Stoichevsky in his 11th season at Paisley Park. He's notched up 150 games. Now, he's a former skipper. He's the backbone to the defence, and is a real legend down at the club. How much of an inspiration in the dressing rooms is a fella like Johnny? Especially being, I assume he'd be like your right-hand man in many ways, would he?
Yeah, Johnny's, look, he's a bit like a Steven Gerrard leader, where he lets his football and his effort and commitment on the park do all the talking. Doesn't talk too much. He's a very quiet kid, top lad. Everybody just loves him. There's nothing to hate about him, but he trains. He trains every session like it's his last. And he's just one of those players that you must have around. But I'm very fortunate that I've got guys like Chris Oldfield, Vince Leah in amongst the boys. Chris Oldfield as our captain. You see him at training. We play our small-sided games. He might concede the jammiest of goals, as you say, but he would get up and he'd crack it, mate. He'd make sure that the defence know that it's not acceptable, and you can hear him yelling from a mile away. And then you got guys like Vinny, who's there, played 300 A-League games, working hard. He clocked up nearly 12 Ks of running in last night's game.
I was just going to ask you about Vince Lee, because he's 37 later on this week. And we mentioned it in the commentary last night, Steve. You've got some younger boys there that are going down with cramp. And then you've got Vince Leah, who's just running around orchestrating everything, and he's 37 years old, and as you said, done 12 Ks last night. How important is he to that team?
Oh, he's incredible, mate. He's one of those players that he's actually got a body that can't stop. So it's when he stops is when he will start to seize up. So, if we had a bike in the change rooms, he'd go into the change rooms, he'd be riding the bike for 15 minutes until we go back out there. That's just the sort of person that he is. But he looks after his body. The key for him, I think, that he knows his body well. He knows what his body needs to get up every week. He doesn't miss a session. He runs just as much as everybody, if not more. Like I said, I think from memory, he was probably one of the highest workers on Saturday night's game.
Yeah.
He clocked just under 12 Ks, or might have been 12 plus Ks as a 37-year-old, which is unheard of.
Mad.
That's awesome. One of the players who stood out this season so far to me with the Magic in defence is Jamal Ali, who's come across from the Thunder, who you played last night, where he was a right back. He's now become a central defender to accommodate, obviously, James Exidius, who's come in from the Bentley Greens as well. He likes to win the ball and go on an adventure forward sometimes. Is that something you've had to tell him to curb, or are you just encouraging him to just use that natural exuberance that he has and get forward if he wants to?
No, I encourage that all the time. I'm the sort of coach that tries not to stop players from playing to their strengths. Yes, you can coach them in terms of helping them win the best times to do that sort of stuff. But, guys like Jamal, he's a beast, very athletic. He goes past players in defence very easily. He's a very good distributor of the ball. But like Jamal, there's multiple players in that team that can play different positions, and that's why I think we've got a very good squad, because I've got players who can play centre back, left back, across the back, anywhere. They can come and do a job in midfield if we have to. So we're very versatile. Jamal is one of those. He can play right back. He can come in as a 6 if we need him. But as a centre back, he's incredible. And to be honest, I don't even remember the last time he got beaten 1v1 in any of our games. So and when he does get beaten, he recovers quite well.
Savvas, on that note, thank you very much for joining us tonight. All the very best for the big game against Oakley Canners. Now, that's next Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. there at Paisley Park. And dare I say, Craig and Steve will probably be the designated commentators for that one. But wishing you all the best for the season ahead, and congrats on the win last night again.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate your feedback, and looking forward to seeing you guys around as well.
Good lad. Thanks, Sav.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take good on you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
For a space for your next function? At George's on Vista, our function room caters for all types of functions. Milestone birthdays, special religious occasions, work functions, hens or bachelor nights, baby showers, or whatever reason you decide is a good idea to get together with family and friends. Contact our friendly staff who will help you put together a menu that will suit your special occasion. Inquiries can be made via our website, georgesonvista.com.au. George's on Vista, in the heart of Fraser Rise. You'll find us at Caroline Springs, George Cross.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show's extra time. And gents, look, it's only 4 rounds into the NPL Victoria competition. And we've got NPL 2 and 3 starting this week. But, man, it's already been a really, really exciting season. Some great goals, some great games. You guys have been able to commentate some of the games. What's your take so far on some of the games that have been played? Steve?
Who goes
Craig?
first?
Go on, Steve. Yeah, go on, Steve.
Yeah, look, I think the team, as we said, the team that we've seen on repeat has been Altona Magic, and they've played a unique brand of football for NPL where they've been quite keen to have a very high possession game, keep the ball, and they've unfortunately come up against some very set defences where the teams have set up, particularly like Eastern Lions with 2 blocks of 4. Their game against Hume City in round 1, that was a really good watch, ended 0-0, but there was plenty of entertainment. The game against Gully in round 2 was maybe a little bit more dire, but there was a good result for Gully there. And what happened last week? Eastern Lions as well. We got to see them firsthand, and we'll speak to Costi in a moment. And that was a good defensive performance, definitely, with Costi making the most of what he had and getting the 3 points there. And last night was one of the highlights as well, was the atmosphere at the ground last night with Thunder's active fans. They had like a truck backed up to the side of the ground with people with flags and trumpets and drums and megaphones, and made a lot of noise and a really good turnout. And I think that's been one of the good things so far this season that I've seen adjacent to the play has been the crowds back at the football and in big numbers too. And I think that's improved the quality on the field because the players get that response and that gratification from having the fans there to applaud their moments in the game, and they've got something to lift an extra notch for. And I think we've seen that this season. Craig, your thoughts?
Yeah, much the same, Steve. I suppose my take on it is I suppose some of the some of the teams that you would expect to be up there, like Hume City, who are sitting bottom of the ladder as we speak, is not where you would see Craig Hegarty's team. They're always there up in that top 3 or 4, but this year they sat at the bottom. They were just 2 points from the 4 games. But then you look at South Melbourne, who've always been that what would I say, flatter to deceive team. They always talk a good race, but never ever sort of back it up with anything. But I have to say this year, I think they're going to be a very, very strong candidate. We spoke to Zoki Markovsky last week. He's back to winning ways this week. He's got a lot of players still to come back into the fold, and then you've got Green Gully, who's spent and bought some quality players in as well. And then on that we've got Port Melbourne, and we can touch on that with our next guest who happened to play them yesterday and got a bit of a drubbing 3-0. So let's get Daniel Costi on to have a chat with him.
And it's our pleasure to welcome Daniel Costi Puscasu onto the Football Out West's Extra Time. Daniel, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Good evening. How are we?
Good evening, Dan. You well?
Good, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, recovered from yesterday.
How have you spent your Sunday, Dan?
Just doing gardening. Now watching football.
The best therapy after a 3-0 defeat is gardening. That makes sense to me. I think so.
What about when you win? What happens then? How do you celebrate? Also gardening, or is there something else?
Nah, then you go to another game.
He talks to his wife when he wins.
Yeah, exactly. No one talks to me. When you lose 3-0 and you walk on the door, the family starts singing, "You're gonna get sacked."
Maybe that's wishful thinking on their behalf.
The vote of confidence from within.
Daniel, through your eyes as a coach, was it a 3-0 result? Was it closer than that, or should Port have maybe ran away with an even bigger goal margin? In your eyes, how you saw that?
That was flattering 3-0. To be honest, I just had a look at the highlights and a bit of the notes that the assistant coaches have done, and we didn't have a shot on goal. So this is, I think, the first game in 2 years that we did not have a shot on goal. So look, Porto just too good, way too good, very, very, very good side. They'll be one of the top teams this year. Very impressive yesterday.
Now, we spoke very briefly last night at the Thunder and Magic game, Dan, and you're in a position at the moment where it's hard for you to get a win. Four games, 3 points. The only win you've had was against Magic last week. But you're without a number of key players, and some that are long-term absences. And of course, the window is now closed as well, so there's no opportunities for you to bring players. How much of an impact is that having on your squad?
Look, it's you can't complain about that. It is what it is. Every team's coping these injuries. We got a team squad because look, our budget is not as big as the year before. We had to recruit some young kids. Then we started losing a few players on long-term injury. We lost Costa. We lost Andrew LePage after the Magic game. We still have a couple of kids there, a couple of senior players that just returned from injury. So basically, Sean Kenny, Ivan, and I think one more. They just returned from injury, so they haven't. Will Ellis. They haven't played any senior. Well, they haven't played much senior football. So there's 5 key players that they are missing at the moment from our squad. But it is what it is. Look, we know where we're sitting. We know the objective of the club is, look, obviously trying to survive. We don't have a big squad, but it's going to be a good opportunity for the youngsters that we develop over the last couple of years to prove that if they're good enough to play in NPL 1. It's a good opportunity for the young kids. So it is what it is. We're gonna put our faith in them. Some of them already played. I think we already had 4 players from our youth system that already made their debuts. 2 of them yesterday, and 1 last week against Magic, and 1 I think in round 1 at Daniel Thunder. No, round 2. Sorry, against Stockley. So that's part of the process that we put in place for to develop these youngsters. It's a big thing at Eastern Lions. I think history has proved that we always like to give chances to young kids to develop and get better. And whatever happens, happens.
Now, Costi, next week it's a real 6-pointer, Dandenong City away. How are we shaping up for that one? And one of your key players who was suspended a couple of weeks ago, Jonas Georgopoulos, is he likely to come back, or is he still going to be out with suspension?
No, he's back. He's going to be back. I felt sorry for the guy. He never copped a red card in his life. He was in tears. Didn't even touch him. And the disappointing part was it was right in front of the goalkeeper. The fourth official. So you couldn't have had a better view of the incident. Well, it is what it is. Not going to complain about it. He'll come straight in. I think we're pretty much going to have the strongest lineup for the year for Dandenong City. I think everybody's returning from injury, and plus Yanni from the suspension. Mm-hmm. Sean Will Ellis will be back. Ivan will be back. So we'll have a strong team, and it is a 6-point. It's a massive game.
Yeah, absolute 6-pointer, and that's happening on Friday night at Frank Holohan Reserve. I think it's 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Daniel, with a game like that, you're both struggling at the moment. 1 win from 4 games at the wrong end of the table. You approach this game with so much importance, I guess, and so much significance. For the players, for the fans, for yourself as the coach as well. Are you going to approach this in any particular way, or are you going to do what all coaches say? Every game is the same. We approach every game in the same way. No, what are your tactics going to be, without revealing too much, of course, that heading into this week?
Win at all costs.
Win at all costs. Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't win this game, for us, it's pointless. I don't know how to explain it, but I think the boys know. Look, we know that it's going to be very tough to compete against the top 8 sides in the league. I think we'll be a bit more competitive against the bottom pack. So these are the games that we need to learn to win, because even last year, if you remember, we beat Hume, we beat Port Melbourne, and then we lost to Dundee City. We drew and lost with Altona Magic, who were at the bottom with us at that time. Copped an equalizer against St Albans. We beat them at home, but if you add up, you lost 6, 8 points, 10 points basically in the bottom 4. And so those wins against Hume and Port were meaningless in a way. You prefer to beat the bottom teams, and it doesn't really matter what you do with the top 6 teams. You'll try, but look, it's very, very hard with a young squad and with an inexperienced squad.
But there is, you're still 4 games in, Dan. You're still, 18 games left of the season. It's a long, long season. Anything can happen. There's a number of clubs in there, as you said, that are looking for that first opportunity, that first win, that second win, and a win for you guys on Friday night. Dandenong will, we'll see, 3 points between the two of you, and that's even at this early stage. It's 3 points more that they have to catch up on, and it's hard. We saw last night, nobody would have thought that Magic would have gone down to, you were there, nobody would have gone down to Dandenong Thunder last night and thought they were going to win 2-0, but they did. So I think it is a case of, and we were at Melbourne Knights last year, Steve, I think, wasn't it, where you beat Melbourne Knights,
Right. Losty scored that absolute
that flyer, didn't he, from about 25 yards, and I think remain positive, I think is the message, and you win and compete with the games that you can, and hopefully you can come out with 3 points every week, and that's the way to take it, I think.
Look, 100%. Look, to go back to Magic first, congratulations to Savvas. Saw him before, look, they're all fantastic. Honestly, I said to him, any other day there could have been a 7-0 win. It was just, but there's games when you got the squad that you have, and the kids that we had on the bench with basically no substitutions. They were just kids. 3 of them actually played in the 21s. What can you do? Don't get me wrong. I love to play football, but if I don't have the players and I need to get the results, I have to sometimes play this defensive game. But look, I can tell you right now, we're going to go to Dundee City. We're not going to play like that. That I can tell you. We're not going to sit back and just let them come at us. We're going to go there to win. Simple If I have to change something, I will change it. We'll discuss it Tuesday and at training and Thursday, and come up with a plan. Do a bit of analysis on them. I went and watched them on Friday night against Gully. They were very good in the second half. Not that good in the first, but they were really good. They put Gully under a lot of pressure in the second half. And yeah, that's it. Look, we're staying positive regardless. We understand where we are. So we know it's going to be a tough season. We know it's going to be. We're going to cop some spankings. It is what it is. It's part of becoming a better club. You know, we're swimming with the sharks. We're little goldfish in a shark tank. So you know, at the end of the day, we need to do whatever it takes to try and survive and build on what we did in the last couple of years with these youngsters that we have at the club.
Costi, one of the cult figures of NPL Victoria, certainly among us commentators, was Ziggy Rizuki, and he's lost the dreadlocks this year. A bit of a different look for him. But what's he like as a leader for you to have as a player that you coach, but also to provide a bit of guidance for the likes of Hussein Oski and Ross and some of these young guys in your squad?
Look, I think the lockdown, I think he cracked it in the lockdown that he couldn't get a haircut, and he decided to shave his head. And the first time I saw him, it was a shock, because I know him for a lot of years, and he always had long hair. And when I saw him bald like me, I'm like, I don't know if it's him or his brother first, one of his brothers. Nah, look, he's a fantastic guy. He's a really, really, really good person. He's been at the club for a lot of years. So he's a player that doesn't care, about money and about going somewhere else. He could have gone to other clubs. Other clubs probably approached him to go somewhere else. Doesn't care. And that's a lot of the boys that we have. They're in the same situation. They don't want to leave Eastern Lions. It's not about money. They're enjoying there. They play there because they feel like they're part of a family. And that's what brought success for this club over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is, since they came up from State 3 all the way into NPL 1. He's an inspirational person. He speaks very good with the kids. He tries to teach them about culture, how important culture is in a football club. And that's, again, we reinforce the fact that that's why we are where we are, because of that a very strong culture that Jimmy Williams, God rest his soul, has installed in the 17 years that he has been as a coach there.
Good, mate. Daniel, unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go there. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always hard for a coach to join do a press conference or a media conference after a loss, so we do appreciate it. We wish you all the best.
Part of the job.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is indeed. Some coaches are a little bit more happy to do so than others, but we do appreciate it, mate. All the very best for the rest of the season. Starting with this Friday's game against Dandenong City at Frank Holohan Reserve, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. By the way.
Thanks, guys, and enjoy the show, and all the best. I'll probably see you at the grounds anyway.
Yeah, good luck. Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Good luck on Friday.
Daniel Puscasu, he is the coach of Eastern Lions. Gents, we're fast running out of time, so let's quickly look at some of the NPL 2 fixtures that are coming on next weekend. Craig, over to you, and thanks firstly to Brenton Ray, who's been able to prepare some of these schedules. He's an absolute legend, Brenton. But NPL 2 kicks off on Friday night.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I'm not sure how many days it is, but it seems like forever since NPL finished. But a cracker up at home versus away, who both play on the same ground. So I'm not sure how that's going to go. But that's Moreland Zebras against Pascoe kicking off on Friday at 8:30. Brunswick versus Kingston City on Saturday. Golden Valley and Manningham taking the long trip up to Shepparton. Moreland City, Bulleen Lions. The game for me in that round, I think, is the Northcote City, North Geelong Warriors. Both teams have invested heavily through the off season, and looking forward to seeing the result of that one, and where I'll be taking the long trip down to Langwarrin to play with Langwarrin, of course.
NPL 3 also kicks off on the same weekend. Steve, take us through the NPL 3 games.
Yeah, again, both divisions have got a big fixture on Friday night. This one at Eastern Suburbs, clash between Box Hill and Springvale White Eagles at Wembley Park, and then into Regional Victoria on Saturday, Ballarat City hosting Geelong at Moorshead Park. That should be a ding-dong battle. Then into your A-League NPL sides with Melbourne City hosting Doveton there. Melbourne Victory hosting Whittlesea Rangers. North Sunshine Eagles versus Preston Lions there at Larissa Reserve in the Northwest. And then on Sunday, Western United at their new home ground for their NPL side, City Vista, are hosting Nunawading City. And I reckon Michael Ong might be at that game.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, no doubt.
Fair chance.
We're fast running out of time, gents, but we're going to quickly look at State League One, the Northwestern Division. Craig, take us through those games.
Yeah, look, I won't go through the fixtures. Tonci, I think everybody can see what they are. There's some big games in there. Probably the standout one there for me is the Banyule City, who've it's no hiding fact that they've spent a lot of money in the off season against another title contenders in Essendon Rolls. Probably a good time for Essendon Rolls to go to Banyule with the pitch being in the best condition it's probably going to be all season. So, but there's some big games: Brimbank, Corio, Keeler Park, Sydenham, Yarraville Glory, and of course George Cross. So some big games, and on Sunday you've got Strathmore promoted to State League One this year and playing away to the Turkish side Whittlesea United.
Yeah, lots of interest in State League One competition this year. With
just before you go,
especially from Santino.
Just before you do go this, Tonci, as well, and we do move on. Just want to let everybody know that obviously with the conversation tonight went on a little bit longer. We will go through the State League fixtures and results a little bit more over the coming weeks.
Yeah, a lot of football action happening as of next week. Gents, we're going to finish up with the extra time. But folks, don't go away. As soon as we finish here, it's time for the press box, and what a show that is going to be with the voice of the EPL coming up, Jim Proudfoot. Don't go away, folks. Extra time is finished. The press box is about to start.